brought my pencil. Give me something to write on,
Hey everyone, welcome to the Meridian Learning and Development Hangout. Today I am joined by Kris Dunn, who is a CHRO of Kinetics and the founder of Fistful of Talent, and my dog in the background. Apologies for that. And then Jeff Kristick, who is the president of Meridian. How are you guys doing?
Doing great.
Yeah, doing good, Allison. Good to be here. Good to see
Awesome.
Jeff. I'm looking forward to Jeff throwing fastballs here.
Yeah. All right.
I moved out of the basement for this one, so it's good. I have better lighting now too.
That's always good. So today we are talking about creating individual performance plans for high-performing individuals. So my first question, or before I get started, if anyone watching has questions during the Hangout, feel free to enter them in the Q&A section and we can address them. We'd love to hear from you guys. The first question I have is for Jeff, which is why the IDP form isn't the most important thing.
Yeah, thanks, Allison. I think the development plans have kind of fallen on the same hard times that performance reviews have in some manner, where people focus a little bit too much on the process and not the outcome. And so if you look at performance reviews, there's lots of frustration that it's a once-a-year event, and you only look backwards, and it doesn't embrace kind of the type of feedback and the feedback cycles that people want today. And I think the development plans have fallen on that as well, where people are so focused maybe on, all right, we finished the performance review, now we got to build a development plan. Let's figure out what you want to do with your life. And we'll have a 10-minute conversation about it, and we'll fill out a form, and then we'll come back and look at it a year later. And I think there was so much focus on the form and the process that people lost sight of kind of the outcomes that people wanted, not only from the individual's perspective of what do I want to do with my career? Maybe I want to move into a new field, maybe I just want to get promoted, maybe I want to live abroad, whatever it might be. And then the organization's needs. And I think if people keep that focus in mind, as well as kind of the needs of the workforce of wanting more consistent feedback and communication throughout the year, how they're doing against that development plan, that's a much better approach. And so don't overfix. I think people were overfixated on that form and that process, losing sight of kind of the outcomes they wanted and what the best approach was to take on those.
Yeah, Jeff, I agree with you. I think, you get so focused. Anytime there's a form involved, most of the time it's not paper anymore. Most of the time it's driven by a great solution like Meridian. But I think anytime there's a form involved, it becomes an event in time rather than something that's organic. I think the form, for me, is still important because it forces a manager of people who may be so focused on running 200 miles an hour to get all the things that they need to get done. I think it still forces them to consider development for their people. I think just like, performance versus coaching, performance is kind of an event in time in terms of performance reviews. In a lot of companies, coaching should happen, if not every day, certainly every week. You should be having those kind of conversations. And I think the IDP form, individual development plan form, I think I agree with everything you said. Still important, I think you would agree, just because it forces the dialogue and conversation. Just through your own experience, that you're always going to have 10% of your managers who are absolute rock stars related to having the best interests of their employees and their development in mind. They don't even have to write it down. The employees know, we've had all these conversations. I know where I'm going. I know what I should do. I know there's these things, which I'm sure we're going to talk about in the next 15, 16 minutes. But, for a lot of them, they're not good at it. So that's where having that form and then making it try and come alive after you do the form, I think is really the kind of the art behind the science.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't mean to imply, it's not worth doing. Right. The form should go away. It's, but why are you doing the form? It's great. We want to have an intelligent conversation about what you want to do with your career and what the company wants and needs and how we kind of bring these worlds together. And let's do it on a regular basis. And then the form and the process, facilitate that and support it, not it's over-fixation on just doing the form.
Absolutely, yeah. And I didn't mean to imply that you were saying that it was dead, but I think we get so caught up in forms, like you said. We get so caught up in a process and a form that we think it's an event in time.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't be. That's the danger.
Yeah.
All right. So my next question is about managers and how you can get them involved in creating the plan and then communicating the benefits of the plan to that high-performing individual.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see what Jeff says about this. The challenge, I'll kind of go back to, what I just shared. I think 10% of your managers, just by the way they carry themselves, are going to be career agents for the people that report to them. And I think it's great. I think you've got 10% of your people that no matter what you do with them are going to drop kick this till the end of the day because maybe the employee doesn't believe it.
Yeah.
It's middle ground, right? And I think one of the things you can do when you consider how you set up that form is just like I'll go back to Jeff's comparison to the performance reviews, just like a good performance review system, performance management system should drive dialogue, the IDP should drive dialogue too, right? So you want to set it up in a way where a manager could almost look at the sheet and have an organic conversation. What's that mean? Well, I think it talks about like where people want to go. I think it talks about their strengths. I think it talks about some of their opportunities. And I think it's got to be, it can't all be all about external training or internal training. It's got to set the manager up to kind of share what they think about where the employee's at and what their ideas are. Like, what's the manager going to be responsible for, apart from formal training?
Yeah.
Apart from anything that's formal in your company, what's the manager going to be responsible for in terms of helping that employee get to the next step? So I think the IDP should set that manager up to be an active coach.
Yeah.
Jeff, I'll throw it to you. I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think those are some really good points. I mean, I think the other thing is just, culturally, the organization's got to really buy into it. So that means leadership at the top of the organization has to show some commitment to. We fundamentally believe in development plans. We believe in investing in the folks that work for us and giving them opportunities to improve and get promoted. And so once you kind of establish that in a cultural perspective and they have proof points, so you want some success stories of folks that put together development plans and got promoted and managers that were involved in the process. Then managers will start to really, and individuals will really start to believe in it. And I think that's sometimes what you really have to overcome is the people's skepticism.
Yeah, Jeff, so share some of the things. I'd be interested to hear more. Share some of the best practices. What have you seen work for companies to share those success stories related to IDPs? Anything come top of mind?
Yeah, well, I mean, if I just look internally, what we've done at Meridian, and I've been here about 18 months, and a big focus has been kind of promoting from within and having conversations with the individuals and the managers about what they want to do with their career. And we're small business. We do north of 20 million, 150-ish employees. So there's good opportunities for growth, but it's really been encouraging managers to have a regular dialogue with the individuals because everybody knows it's much more expensive to go out and hire somebody new until you onboard them. So we want to keep people around, and we just have done a really good job, I think, of promoting opportunities when they're available internally. And then when we do make those promotions, make a big deal out of it. At the next all hands, you call up the individuals that got promoted, and you acknowledge their hard work, and you talk about the role the manager played, the individual played. Right. And people see that. You're doing a little bit of marketing and promotion around it, and they start to believe that conversation actually is more than just a form to be filled out once a year. That it's actually something that they can feel vested in. So I've seen that work well here and in other places I've worked as well.
And I think it kind of speaks to the fact that HR people and OD people, training and development, learning and development people, have to become better marketers of what they do, right? So I love what you said. I think sharing, on the promotion, being able to share what that individual has worked through and that it was tied to a broader process, even if that's one sentence that refers to that broader process, that hey, we actually planned for this. He or she worked through kind of the plan, and as a result, man, they're ready, and we're proud, to promote this people, even if it's a little aside. I think it's interesting. I think it does what you said it would do, which is kind of make people say, okay, maybe this just isn't something we do because HR or learning development said we had to do it.
Yeah. Well, we even started, at the highest level, we started with some core values, and one of our key core values is be the change you want. And that not only applies to the organization. If you see something in the organization that you want to change, whatever level you're in, speak up. But also from a career perspective, if you really want to be a manager, if you really want to be an engineer or a developer, and you're in services doing project management, then tell us. It's a two-way. We're here to help you, but it's a two-way relationship where if you want to change, you have to speak up and encourage that. And I think it's pushing some of that ownership down. It's not our way of dismissing it, saying we have no role, but it's really encouraging people to take control over their careers and the company as best they can.
Jeff, before we throw it back to Allison, is that a Gandhi reference to that value?
I thought it was from Star Wars, but it might be from Gandhi. I thought it was Yoda or something.
Gandhi or like Yoda, right?
Yeah. I don't know. Actually, we may have to attribute it to somebody. I don't know, because it came up in like the working group we had that came up with it, and we really liked it.
I love the fact that, like, I've heard that in pop culture somewhere. Say it again. Be the change.
Be the change you want.
Yeah. So I've seen that a couple different ways, and I think that's cool because stripping it from pop culture is the best way to get it really resonating in somebody's head. So I'm not trying to cause you copyright infringement here. I think it's cool.
We haven't used any external marketing, but I will check that. I'll talk to Stacy about that.
I think we'll be fine. All right, right before I switch gears with the next question, I just wanted to let the audience know that you're free to ask any questions in the Q&A section. I think it's underneath the video feed on your screen. So next up is about kind of like content. So how do you find the right balance between development items that cost money and then the development items that are out there that are free?
Yeah, I mean, this is where, and Kris, I mean, you're in a small business as well where you're always managing pennies. This is where there's so much available for free that it's fantastic. Whether that's, content you can find on YouTube or through forums or whatever it can be. And then even the stuff you have to pay for it's very, very cost effective. Certainly when you compare it to the cost of losing an employee or having a disengaged workforce, the investment's a pretty easy decision to make. And then I think the other part, which we need to do a better part at probably at Meridian, is some of the informal elements. I mean, so if you look at the concept of mentorships and fireside chats and setting people up for some of those conversations, that has very low cost. You just need to invest the hours into putting some of those programs in place. So I think there's a great deal of content available, and it's well worth whatever investment you need to make to keep people around.
Yeah, so there's this thing, and you alluded to it, Jeff. So Allison, there's this thing called Google. Maybe you've heard of it. Let me
We're
Google
using
that
it right
for
now.
you. Right? Let me Google that for you. But I think Jeff's right. There's tons available at either no cost or low cost. The other thing I would tell you is, a trend I've seen in my 20 years doing human capital related stuff, big companies and small companies, is that really an over-reliance, even if you have budget, an over-reliance on formal training that costs money, and in some cases a substantial amount of money, an over-reliance on that actually breaks down the manager as a coach relationship.
Yeah.
So it becomes one of those things where, let's say, we've done webinars together where we talk about, Burson and Associates says what the average dollars spent per FTE is. Well, I don't know anyone personally that has that budget. I'll just go ahead and say that. But I think even if you did, sending people off to training class, if Jeff sent me off to a training class, right, and he sees me in the hallway, and he paid, whatever, $1,000, and I went to 3 days of training, he's running and ripping. All he's got to do is say, hey, how'd that go? And I say, well, Jeff, went pretty good. Thanks for sending me. And then we're off running and ripping. What I love is when you tie in a development plan to really what's going on from a performance perspective. So the flip side of that is I get my performance review, and Jeff says that I'm good, not great in a couple areas. But he really believes in me as someone that's maybe a high potential. So now all of a sudden, to help me, in that session, he says, hey, no surprise, I've got you as good, not great. Let's talk about what it takes to get to great. And let's talk about a couple things that you can do to research some stuff, bring what you learned into projects, and just get better. And I think it's that type of workflow that all the informal stuff has a lot more power if you link to the coaching that you're providing to an employee on kind of an organic basis, week to week, month to month. Yeah. And I've seen, I've never been part of this, but I've seen some of my friends that had this huge like training budget, and I got to tell you, they didn't get out of it. It's just kind of a check mark, right? Maybe they learned something, maybe they didn't. I think the real value is when you can link something that the individual had to research to coaching they're getting from the manager. It's like my bias is I think it all comes back to, does it set up the manager to be a successful coach?
Well, I think something that just kind of popped up was, as you think about it, it's almost like a three-legged stool. I mean, you need coaching, which is continuous throughout the year. You need managing, and you need training. And the training can be formal or informal. And you need all three of those. You can't just send somebody off to do a performance review once a year and be like, oh, you need to improve your analytics skills. Go to a course, never follow up, never coach, and then come back a year later and be like, oh, I'm sure you're better. It's just not that simple. All three of those have to work together to really move the individual forward and for the corporation to get really, what they're looking to accomplish. So I think it's a three-legged stool from that perspective.
So Allison, I've got a question from you in that regard. So let's put you on the spot.
Oh, I love this part.
What's the most valuable piece of training, either formal or informal, that you've either been provided or that you chased on your own over the last 2 years?
I actually was thinking about this as you guys were discussing it. So
We're topical like that, by the way.
I know. I thought of it. And you didn't tell me you were going to ask me this. I'm happy I know the answer to it. So a few years ago, I was interning at a PR firm in D.C., and they had a pretty serious internship program, and they made it available. We had brown bag lunches with executives. And it wasn't just, PR executives. It was also HR was involved, a couple other operation roles, finance. And in those brown bag lunches, we sat with the CEO, the VP of HR, and we were able to just kind of ask any question we wanted with regards to how the business works or, the future of our careers or what they would do if they were in our shoes and different things like that. And it was a really cool experience because it was a bunch of different people and having that executive level exposure where we could have an honest conversation about our career path, about different areas of the business, about what skills they think are important. As college students, you're trying to figure out what you want to do, and it was one of the coolest things I was able to be a part of. Definitely something that I don't think I'll ever forget. So from a training perspective, I don't know if it was necessarily training, but that kind of informal learning, it was a cool opportunity. I think all of us walked out of there with some good advice.
Okay, I think we've got another question, but so that's a great example. So it's almost like a Reddit Ask Me Anything.
Yeah, PG rated.
Right, Reddit calls that the Ask Me Almost Anything.
Yeah. Yes.
So for example, you set up all this Google Hangout stuff, you and Emily, from Meridian. You've had a lot of learning about this platform and how to set it up and how to interact with guests. So I think that's interesting. Anyway. I'll throw it back to you. Do we have one more question?
Yes, we have one more question. This relates to manager feedback. So how important is it to make sure that the development efforts result in behavioral change and actual performance goals?
Jeff, I'll let you lead on that one. I think I kind of I think we both talked a little bit about it.
Yeah, you had to pan out.
Yeah, I mean, it's a two-way relationship. Yeah, I mean, it's called an individual development plan, but it can't be successful unless the manager and the employee and the whole organization are behind it. And I think the point you brought up is that coaching throughout the year is really what makes it successful. It's got to be that two-way conversation. Set up the development plan. You got the outcome in mind that you want, and then do regular coaching and training throughout the year, whether formal or informal, to make sure you're progressing against that. And without that, then you're left back to just, I filled out the form and I come back a year later and hope that things got better.
Right.
So it's really a critical component.
I would agree, and I think I think one of the most important things when it comes to development plans is probably figuring out, okay, what kind of expectation do you set with your manager to try and make that organic and for it not to feel formal and clunky, that they're actually using it and referring to it throughout the year. Harder to do than it is to say, but that's kind of the art of HR, learning and development. All of us who are responsible for those things, that's the hardest thing to do, but it's probably the most important thing, because if somebody comes in and out, if Jeff's my manager, I'll leave you with this, I'll throw it back to you, Allison, because I know we're short on time. If Jeff's my manager, and rather than pulling out the form, he has a general understanding of what's on that development plan, and he makes references to it and takes me down the rabbit hole of talking about it, periodically without pulling out the form, then, he's got me. He's got instant credibility, and I think he's got my best interests at heart because he's delivering in that fashion, not in a formal fashion that causes them to have to pull out the sheet.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's great. I don't think those conversations should be happening in a vacuum. So, well, thank you guys so much for joining this Hangout. You guys have provided a lot of really great information. Thanks to everyone who tuned in, and we will have another Hangout next month. Topic to be determined. Thank you guys.